Good morning. This is a sound check for Arlene Ferrer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I'm going to mute your mic now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors special meeting for fiscal year 21-22 budget deliberations. Today's Monday, June 28th, 2021. Our meeting today is being held remotely due to the current public health crisis to protect the health of all. I will now take roll call to confirm attendance. Please respond when your name is called. Supervisor Mitchell.
Good morning, present.
Thank you. Supervisor Kuehl.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Hahn.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Barger.
Here.
Thank you. Deja Davenport, Chief Executive Officer.
Present.
Thank you. Rodrigo Castro Silva, County Counsel.
Here.
Thank you. Celia Zavala, Executive Officer for the board.
Here.
Thank you. Members, before we begin, I would like to hold a moment of silence for the 9 people who have been found dead and the more than 150 people who are still missing after a residential building partially collapsed in Surfside, Florida, last Thursday. Our thoughts and our prayers are with the families and those who have been impacted by this tragedy. We will now take a moment of silence. Thank you. Today, we'll begin with opening remarks from the Chief Executive Officer and members of the board, and then we will take up public comment. The Chief Executive Officer will then present each of the budget items in numerical order. We will now hear from our Chief Executive Officer, Deja Davenport.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Solis, and good morning, supervisors. What a difference a year makes. When the final changes budget was presented to you at this time last year, we were looking at the very real possibility of layoffs and significant cutbacks in county services. At that time, some of the pandemic's biggest challenges, including a devastating winter surge and skyrocketing public need for safety net services, were still ahead of us. Today, our revenues are beginning to rebound. All sectors of our economy have reopened as of June 15th, and more than 10 million doses of vaccine have been administered to our residents so far. Our planning to reopen county buildings to the public is well underway, and some of our facilities, like our libraries, museums, and parks, have already resumed in-person services. I'm proud to say that with the board's leadership, Los Angeles County rose to meet the public service challenges of the past 16 months, and we are now ready to build on the momentum of service in action to support an equity-focused recovery for all of our communities. I want to talk a little bit about final changes budgets, which supports your board's key priorities. The $36.5 billion final changes budget before you today reflects an increase of $302.8 million since the recommended budget was adopted in April, and an increase of 315 budgeted positions for a workforce total of 110,814 positions. We know we're still facing considerable challenges and uncertainties, including new variants and low vaccination rates in some of our most heavily impacted communities. For too many of our residents continue to struggle with COVID-related economic hardships that have fallen most heavily on historically disadvantaged communities. So as we emerge from the pandemic and build momentum for an equity-focused recovery, this budget focuses on targeted investments to serve the public and advance this board's vision and priorities. To name just a few, these include additional funding to support Project Home Key for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness, further expansion of the Promotores de Salud mental health program to bring culturally competent outreach to our diverse communities, support for our voting system, including resources to support mail-in voting. I particularly like to highlight some of the key investments to support the board's Care First jail's last vision, and then talk a little bit about our federal stimulus funding. I'll start first with youth justice. Our progress towards establishing a new Department of Youth Development and transitioning the county's youth justice system to a care first model is well underway. This budget recommends full funding of the $26.1 million requested by the Office of Diversion and Reentry for its Division of Youth Diversion and Development, also known as YDD. This funding will enable YDD to expand and provide pre-arrest prevention and youth development services to all eligible youth countywide. That means that in the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 100% of the 6,500 eligible youth for these services will receive them. Increasing these services should lead to fewer youth entering the probation system in the first place. I'd also like to provide some clarity about the level of funding we are recommending and the timetable involved. The $26.1 million in funding recommended reflects ODNR's in-depth assessment of the actual staffing and costs involved. This funding level achieves the same level of services, but at a lower cost than those that was initially estimated in 2020 by a consultant without the benefit of this in-depth analysis. Let me be clear, we are on target and moving forward on the multi-year timetable directed by your board to transfer our juvenile justice system to the Care First model by 2025, pending resolution of all of the necessary legislative, labor, and budgetary issues. In addition to the funding I just mentioned, we're also looking closely at the use of our AB 109 revenues and expect to have additional funding recommendations aligned with your board's Care First vision when we return in October for the supplemental budget phase. At the same time, we are analyzing the probation department's juvenile staffing levels to determine resources that could potentially be redirected to YDD. And we are also exploring the feasibility of establishing a YDD project fund, which will be seeded with funding over multiple budget years and deployed as appropriate to maximize services to system-involved youth. Next, supervisors, I'd like to talk a little bit about Measure J, Care First and Community Investments Budget Unit. As you know, a Superior Court judge on June 17th tentatively ruled that, quote, Measure J exceeds the power of the electorate to enact by charter amendment and is constitutionally invalid, unquote. The judge has signaled her intention to make that ruling permanent, and Los Angeles County, at the direction of your board, intends to appeal that ruling. In the meantime, however, it's important to note that the court's decision has no impact on the board's authority to approve funding for the types of programs and investments specified in the Measure J ordinance. In fact, the $100 million already approved for Measure J purposes in the recommended budget remains very much a part of the county budget. Unless your board directs otherwise, our plan is to place these funds in a new budget unit called Care First and Community Investments, where they will be used to support the types of direct community investments in alternatives to incarceration programs specified in Measure J. We will return to your board later in the fiscal year with detailed proposed allocations for this funding developed with the input from the Measure J Advisory Committee. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about our federal stimulus from the American Rescue Plan. We will also be returning in the near future with recommendations for the first phase of $1.9 billion in American Rescue Plan funding. These recommendations are being developed in close collaboration with county departments and your offices and include: 1, continuing to fight against COVID-19 with a focus on our hardest hit communities. 2, building a bridge to an equitable recovery by deploying supportive services through an equity lens. 3, emerging from the pandemic better than before through investments that address the county's most urgent and longstanding inequities, including poverty, access to housing, the digital divide, and unequal justice system outcomes. And finally, fiscal stability and emergency preparedness to prepare for future challenges, whatever they may be. These American Rescue Plan allocations are not included in the budget before you today. Once adopted by your board, however, these programs will be incorporated into future budget phases. So what's next? Although we call this the final changes budget, it is part 2 of a 3-part process. We will return for the final phase, the supplemental budget, on October 5th. We remain in a highly dynamic period and expect to address emerging issues, revenue trends, and budget needs at that time. In closing, I would like to thank your board once again for your leadership and for your support. Your longstanding commitment to sound budgeting principles has enabled the Los Angeles County family not just to weather the pandemic storm, but to seize the momentum and place us on track to come back better than before. I'd be happy now to take any questions you may have. If not, Madam Chair, I turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much to our CEO, Thesia Davenport, and especially to all of your team and our budget deputies and all of our staffs, and including the county family. And I also want to thank our county department heads and their staffs and everyone for their continued support and work on the budget as we make adjustments and what is our new now in terms of our workplaces. As we come to the end of the fiscal year in 2021, I would like to acknowledge the challenges that each department faced given the budget curtailment resulting from the loss of revenue from COVID-19, as well as the additional demands that were placed on each department to meet the needs of our constituents. During COVID, well over 50,000 of our county employees were deployed as disaster service workers, which means they were redirected and reassigned to serve at testing and vaccination sites, food distributions, our November's presidential election, first responders, administrative support, and at various shelters that house people exposed to the pandemic or people experiencing homelessness. I would like to say thank you and applaud all of our county workforce, the dedicated people who put their lives on the line to serve our very residents, despite the impact COVID may have had on their own personal lives. Each one of you generously and compassionately served our county in the worst moments. And I know members of the board, truly are thankful to you. And now, July 1st, which is coming up, marks the beginning of the new fiscal year. And I'm very pleased that the county is heading into the new year in a strong fiscal position. The county's revenues are stabilizing and are better than what was initially estimated. We received the first tranche of the Federal American Rescue Plan, $974 million. And I'm pleased to inform you that this year again, the county received the highest possible short-term credit ratings on our current tax and revenue anticipation notes, despite the impact COVID had on our economy and our budget. And the spending and hiring freeze that I co-authored with Supervisor Barger last year in response to the pandemic has helped us remain within budget and avoided layoffs. All of these milestones give us hope for the upcoming fiscal year, but there is still much left to do. Our economy, as you know, is reopening, so we must continue to focus on ensuring an equitable distribution of vaccines so that anyone who wants one can get one. As of June 20th, over 10.2 million doses have been administered, with 67% of residents over 16 have received at least one dose. 58% of the same population being fully vaccinated. We led by being the first county in Southern California to enter the state's yellow tier by 2 weeks, and is now the county with the lowest positivity rate in the state. This is a testament to all of our collective efforts. And for our residents 65 and older, 87% have received at least one dose, and 67% are fully vaccinated. In fact, just as an example, in the district that I represent, East Los Angeles, for example, 87.8% of residents 65 and older have received one dose. That demonstrates our hard work in reaching our communities most impacted by COVID-19. However, we know that we have more work to do. Black and Latinx communities that are not vaccinated remain especially vulnerable to the virus. And we have already begun seeing that as case and positivity rates have increased just in the last few days. We also need to make sure that our families and residents stay housed because homelessness continues to be our most pressing problem. So I'm pleased that the motion I co-authored with Supervisor Kuehl passed last week that extended the eviction moratorium to the end of September. I also remain committed to closing the Men's Central Jail. And by passing the motion I authored in April with Supervisor Kuehl as my co-author, funding is set aside, dedicated for the demolition of this facility. This is, as you know, a critical step to ensuring we stop using our jails as a place to put people who have nowhere to go, such as people suffering from mental health crisis or people experiencing homelessness. Simultaneously, we must continue to invest in community programs that will support people leaving our jails when they return to their communities. And we must set up an infrastructure to prevent people from getting involved in the carceral system to begin with. And most importantly, we have to back our words of equity with real actions to serve the underserved and underinvested, especially those in our Black and Brown and low-income communities. Fiscal year 21-22 final changes budget is $36.5 billion and a total of 814 budgeted positions. And I'm pleased that the budget reflects many of my own priorities as chair, such as 931,002 positions to fund the anti-hate program in response to my March motion. 3 positions in the CEO's Office of Emergency Management, which I'm pleased to be overseeing and know this will help us with our county's cooling centers. 3 positions in the medical examiner's budget to address increased caseload as requested under a letter that I submitted. 17.3 million for youth diversion and development that reflects the first investment in youth to the board's commitment to transition to care first. As I've also allocated 192,000 of my own office discretionary funding to further augment something I believe in, the Parks After Dark program through the County Department of Arts and Culture for parks in my district. In closing, I am indebted to our constituents that we represent in the county, and I also want to thank my colleagues for their continued partnership and leadership every step of the way, and including as we move forward in our budget deliberations today. Together, I'm confident that the budget will help us not only meet the immediate needs of our communities as we emerge from the pandemic. We have to create a pathway with critical resources that lead to a healthy and vibrant community for all. With that, I also do have a question for our CEO, and I will direct this. Ms. Davenport, earlier you mentioned the Youth Justice Reimagined report and the fact that your office has identified $26 million to expand youth diversion services to 100% of all eligible youth countywide. Can you please explain how YDD would be able to serve 100% of eligible youth countywide with $26 million and share what other work is underway to implement the Youth Justice Reimagined report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to provide some clarity and unpack this information, because I realize that there are different figures floating around regarding what it would take to expand youth diversion. If permitted to do so, allow me to provide a little bit of background because I think it'll help place the answer in context. So on October 30th, the Hayward Burns Institute, who was hired to develop a plan to transition a county's youth justice system, issued a report. And the report, amongst other things, proposed establishing a new Department of Youth Development, which would be responsible for providing county-based prevention and diversion, detention and alternatives to custody, and post-release support by assuming functions currently performed by Probation Juvenile Services that would ultimately convert those services into a youth-centered, trauma-informed, and restorative model. Ultimately, those services would then be transferred to the new Department of Youth Development. And so in November of 2020, your board adopted the core values of that report, and you also committed to establishing a care first model for our juvenile justice system by 2025. The consultant's report was divided into 3 phases, phases 1, 2, and 3. They were about 18 months long, each one of them, and we are currently in phase 1. Phase 1 identified 5 specific tasks, and I'd like to go over each one of those individually. And the first task addresses your question directly. The first task, and I believe the most foundational task, was to expand the existing pre-arrest diversion programming countywide. So as mentioned in my previous comments, we will be able to expand youth diversion services to all eligible youth. The consultant estimated that the cost for the expansion would be approximately $60 million. Since that time, we have worked directly with the Youth Development and Diversion Unit within ODNR to identify more accurate costs and to refine that estimate. YDD went back and did refine their numbers and determined that the actual cost to expand, or the price, the funding needed to provide services to 100% of all eligible youth, is $26 million. So this is the figure that will be funded in fiscal year 21-22 to expand youth development diversion services to 100% of youth, eligible youth countywide. The next recommendation in that consultant's report under phase 1 was to increase capacity building among youth serving agencies. Essentially, these are our community-based organizations, which are oftentimes help to form the backbone of our service delivery model. Here, we are looking at federal stimulus funding as a possible funding source to focus on youth serving agencies. We know that there is a number of ways to engage in this work. One, we can increase technical capacity, technical assistance to these community-based organizations. And another way is to increase capacity, their own capacity to serve more youth. And so that work and planning is underway. We know that we have other efforts underway in the county to increase capacity of community-based organizations, but a lot of those efforts are currently directed at the adults and not youth. And so we are looking at the federal stimulus funding in order to expand capacity for the youth serving community-based organizations. There are 3 additional recommendations from the consultant's report in phase 1. The third recommendation was to work with probation to improve alternatives to detention. And this is also a very important recommendation. And this work is also already underway. The Alternatives to Incarceration office here in the CEO's office has been in discussion with the probation department on this issue. We know that one key question is funding. We know that the probation department receives funding that must be used for specific purposes. For example, they have funding that must be used to serve youth who have been adjudged wards of the court. They have other funding that must be used specifically for halls and camps. However, knowing this, that doesn't mean that we can't do anything today. And so the question here is, how can we work with probation to modify their existing service delivery model to improve those alternatives to detention? And as I stated earlier, this work is underway. There is a 4th recommendation very closely related to the 3rd. That recommendation was to work closely with probation and community-based partners on the development of re-entry services and supports. Again, this work remains in progress. A lot of this effort will be tied to the work that I previously discussed in response to the 3rd recommendation relating to alternatives to detention. And again, one of the things that we're focusing on is we realize, and in the consultant's report, they realize that some of this funding cannot be transferred to YDD or to a new Department of Youth Development at this time, and that legislative changes will be necessary. But again, the question is, what are those things we can do today? What are those things, what are those changes that can be made within the existing service delivery model within probation that would align with these two recommendations. And then finally, Supervisor, there was the fifth recommendation. It relates to support for funding for establishing the new Department of Youth Development. That's a phase 1 recommendation. The consultant's report estimated or recommended that at least $15 million would be used for this effort. This is, again, an ongoing process, and it has multiple moving parts. So first, we have asked YDD to work with their consultant to develop a staffing plan and a budget for the new department. So there are a lot of things that are unknown at this time, particularly because this will be a department built from scratch. So some of those questions are, what is the service level? How many youth will be served? What are the appropriate staff levels and the positions? What will the supervisor to staff ratios be? What will be the administrative structure of this new department? How many folks in personnel and payroll and training? And I know that these seem like very mundane administrative tasks, but these are the foundational elements of building out a budget for a new department. And so we have been in discussions with YDD, and we are looking forward to hearing back from them as they work through their consultant to submit to us the proposed build out and the estimate for the new department. Another very important component of that is actually job descriptions and classifications that will need to be created. We know that one of the things that we do not want to do is simply take the existing job classification, let's say for a probation officer, and transfer that to the new department. That is not the direction that the consultant's report suggested, nor would it be supportive of the board's care first vision. And so we know that YDD will also have to identify and come up with job descriptions, position levels, and classification. Next, we're going to have to identify funding that may be able to be transferred to YDD in the near future, and then which funding requires legislative changes. And I alluded to that a little bit earlier. Finally, I would say that in terms of the funding for the new department, although the consultant's report acknowledges that legislative changes are required to affect some of the service delivery changes, there's also a slight implication that the new department or even YDD can simply assume some of the functions of probation, and therefore the funding to support those functions can also be transferred to YDD. So our research up to this point has indicated that that's not necessarily the case. To the extent that funding in probation supports a legislatively mandated service or intervention or function in the department, then those functions cannot literally be transferred to the youth development department. First, there needs to be a legislative change that would allow the youth development department to assume responsibility for and perform those functions that are currently performed by probation staff. And then second, once that legislative change is made, then the funding that supports those positions, that support those functions and tasks can also be transferred. Even with that said, we know that there is still an opportunity to identify funding within probation that can be transferred to YDD in the sooner rather than later, and then ultimately to the new Department of Youth Development. So we have started to analyze probation's funding sources. We're taking a deeper dive, if you will, to identify what funding might be available to transfer without the need for legislative changes. So in summary, at the end of the day, work is progressing on those phase 1 recommendations. The most concrete and tangible recommendation we believe is to expand youth diversion services to 100% of youth countywide, and we will be able to do that with the board's adoption of the final changes budget. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you very much, Fezia, for that detailed analysis and report. And it looks as though it's a work in progress, but yet we are making a strong commitment here by placing the necessary funds to at least serve as 100% of the population. So I thank you for that. And in order, members, just to be aware, we go through numerical numbering and acknowledging your statements. So with that, I'm proud to turn it over to Supervisor Holly Mitchell.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. And let me start by expressing, quite frankly, as a Angelino and a county resident, how deeply I and all of us are indebted to your leadership and chairwomanship and that of Supervisor Bargers, during really perilous times for our county, our state, our nation. I just wanted to acknowledge that. Further, to thank the county family as a whole. From my perspective, it's times like these that government is really designed to meet the core needs of our residents. And certainly not in my lifetime or recent history have we seen an example where government not only had the obligation, but stepped up in a profound and meaningful way to provide support, resources, help that really made the difference in the lives of every county resident. And so I want to acknowledge the hardworking members of the county family for their work as well. I couldn't agree with the CEO more. When I thought back to my own life a year ago this month, I was leading the Senate's budget deliberations, recognizing that in January of 2020, we had record high resources in the general fund. The governor proposed a budget that reflected record investments across California. And 60 to 90 days later, we looked at a very different outcome. And yet and still, California and the county persevered. The ledge analyst was then able to, acknowledge the fact that the days weren't as dark as we thought they were. The federal government, the newly elected federal government came in and stepped in to provide the CARES Act and resources that all of us needed in local government to continue to provide critical life-sustaining services. And so I'm very appreciative of having the opportunity to join the county at this interesting intersection in our history, a time of great need, but also a time of great opportunity for investment. And while I spent 10 years, my 10 years in the state legislature serving in leadership and budget committee as subcommittee chair, and my last 3 as chair of the Senate Budget Committee, this clearly is my first rodeo with the county budget process. But I brought a lot of what I've learned those 10 years with me, quite frankly, to the table. I'm clear that budgets are a reflection of our values. And from my perspective, community input can and must have a large impact on that process. So we engaged in outreach here in my office, and the purpose of this outreach was really to encourage more public participation in forums and create space for communities to be involved in this process. The process always helps to inform me and shape how I respond to the needs of my community. We did that a variety of ways. My office actively engaged the community in discussions surrounding the budget, including a public discussion of the county budget, a community survey of budget priorities. We conducted multiple stakeholder meetings around other funding opportunities, such as the American Rescue Plan. And so I'd like to thank the hundreds of members of the 2nd District that participated in these opportunities and shared their feedback, concerns, ideas, and insights. I'd also like to thank my brand new team for leaning in with me and engaging in that process. So what did we hear? We heard that equity must be at the forefront of all aspects of our budget process as we determine the allocation of the county's resources. As you heard Madam Chair talk about our case positivity rates, have improved significantly countywide, but they really do remain unequal across neighborhoods, as do rates of poverty, housing and food vulnerability, arrests, and even access to digital services. Decades of institutional inequity have led to negative health, wealth, and opportunity outcomes for marginalized communities throughout the county. As many LA County residents have experienced firsthand, the pandemic has only exacerbated these inequities. Therefore, I believe we must invest in communities that have received the least amount of resources in the past and face the most significant consequences as a result. Based on that experience, I'm proud of the fact that we've authored and put forward multiple motions that encompass equity through the arts, county contracting, and the delivery of county services. I'm pleased to see that the final changes budget includes new ongoing funding for the Community Impact Grants Program and increased funding for the Office of Diversion and Reentry, as well as its Youth Development Division. I look forward to continued development of our Care First, Jail Last priorities and youth justice being reimagined. I will continue to advocate and push for the county to use an equity lens to ensure the distribution of benefits are delivered to our communities and neighbors who, again, have the greatest need. As we move forward in allocating resources through the county's annual budget process and through the special allocations, like the American Recovery Plan, federal stimulus, and our local care force and community investment funds, it's essential that we ensure that resources are allocated to where they are needed the most. In adopting this budget today, I'm clear that the board will not end the county's annual budget process. I will continue to work with my colleagues, the CEO, county departments, and our stakeholders once again to refine and develop the 2021 budget as we look forward to the supplemental changes, the American Recovery allocations, and the Care First and Community Investment Funds. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to share my perspective on this year's budget deliberation process.
Very much. Very good. Next, we will go to Supervisor Sheila Keel, representing the 3rd District.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you is the theme of all of our opening remarks. I think I want to associate myself with the comments so far by yourself and by my new and very welcome colleague from the 2nd, and I'm certain I will also have deep agreement with the remarks to be made by Supervisors Hahn and Barger. I feel particularly fortunate to be able to serve at this pivot point in time with 4 truly wonderful colleagues, and am struck every day, honestly, with how we work through our differences, how we bring together our agreements, and then how we all turn to you, Fezia, and say, okay, make it work. And so my deepest thanks are to you, our CEO, and your staff for your tireless work. And I think that is not quite true, because I'm certain that you all get very tired, but you keep going anyway. Your dedication to making all of this work, the board's many priorities, which I think at this point in history reflect a real turning point, hopefully, in the country, exemplified in our county. The workload of the CEO staff has been deeply impacted due to the pandemic. In many ways, not only doubled the work, but tripled it, because in addition to balancing the budget, many other responsibilities through all the 37 departments, you and your team also were tasked with analyzing and developing all the recommendations on the coronavirus relief funds, including CARES and now ARP. Additionally, of course, you've been responsible for identifying funding, which is in the budget, and developing a proposal for the board on the Measure J Advisory Committee recommendations. And thanks to all of those in our communities who have participated all year put their hearts and souls into trying to carry out a policy and funding shift in the county to continue the important work to address systemic and social justice inequities. Uh, I'd like to lift up, just for a few moments, some of the priorities of myself and my staff included in this budget, and also to highlight a few areas I want to continue to work to support and fund. First of all, affordable housing. Talk about a panacea, the deepest answer, um, what everybody's talking about. This is the top priority we have in our efforts to curb the inflow into homelessness. Our markets across the county are unaffordable, our housing markets. And, you know, we need a 500,000 affordable homes that simply don't yet exist. So that is why the board adopted a motion I introduced more than 5 years ago to establish and grow the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to 100 million a year in ongoing funding. This is not the 100 million for Measure J. This is our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And I'm very grateful that again, we have the full investment of 100 million for 21-22, and we're on track to make it permanent. I'm also very pleased to see the addition of a position in the Affordable Housing Unit to assist with our commitment to grow the availability of affordable housing. Second, I want to talk right away about Measure J. In response to years and years of community advocacy, the testimony of people with lived experience, solid scientific research, this board made a commitment to building a Care First, Jail Last system in LA County and lifting up community-based organizations and services to help restore the health, the soul, the good life of all the people who live here. And when we voted to put Measure J on the ballot last year, we had already made a decision to embrace this systems change, but we wanted to give the voters a chance to ratify that decision. And as I expected, it passed. There's no doubt that the majority of LA County residents want to see this shift in funding so that we can make the necessary investments. Now, since the measure passed, there's been huge engagement from diverse community members from all over the county who come together for meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, brainstorm, discussed, and carefully prioritized recommendations. The seriousness of their purpose and their commitment is impressive. With the preliminary court ruling, we look to have hit what I hope might be a temporary legal roadblock. But the road before us still looks much as it did before the ruling. Do we have voter strong support for this? Yes. Do we want our budget to reflect our values and priorities? As Supervisor Mitchell said, a budget always does. And Measure J, or what is contained in Measure J, is a mechanism to help us do that. I want to see the ruling appealed, but you know, if we lose that appeal, I want to continue to embrace it as a guiding principle. This budget allocates the first 100 million in ongoing funding for the priorities identified in Measure J. As far as I'm concerned, these investments should continue to grow just as was envisioned, and nothing really prevents us from doing that. The second priority, young people. Long discussion about YDD, but you know, we have many, many young people who are justice involved, but many who are not. And I am really pleased to see in this budget, the board renewed our commitment to children and youth from birth through age 24. We don't take this commitment lightly because along with others, but pretty centrally, we are their stewards and really their protectors. Ensuring we transition to a care first model is one of my top priorities, and much was reported about YDD, and I won't go over it again, only to praise it. It's a great start, and I look forward to more work on that. The Division of Juvenile Justice, the state's down payment in the amount of 8.3 million in the first year for the transition from state, shall we call it caretaking, is also reflected in this budget. And we are in the midst of planning for a transition, working on a promising and thoughtful report to the board, not just where do we stick these kids, but how do we truly help them in a more humane way. Um, the DCFS housing programs, I want to lift those up as well. I'm really glad to see additional state investment of almost 3 million in the DCFS transitional housing program. What does that do? It helps our young people between the ages of 18 and 25 still in our care to secure and maintain housing with priority given to former foster youth and probationers. Plus, we're putting in an additional 1.7 million for the Housing Navigator program, which is so basic to helping these young people secure housing and supportive services, especially to youth in foster care to prevent their homelessness. Next, I want to talk about the LGBTQ plus community. And everyone says, well, how can we have new letters every couple of weeks in this group? And that is because we want to continue to recognize the vast differences in sexual identity across our entire population and how some of that identifies people for negative treatment by others. So we have a big responsibility to support our LGBTQ plus youth, especially in our foster system, at least 20% of our foster kids, and must double down on our commitment to improve well-being for LGBTQ plus people across the board. Recently, Supervisor Solis and I brought a motion to focus on the urgency for funding specifically for this youth. And people who are part of this community are overrepresented in both the child welfare and the justice systems, not a fact that gets a lot of attention. Up to 40% of young people experiencing homelessness identify as queer. Unique challenges like family rejection and bullying push LGBTQ plus people into situations that compromise their mental health, their housing stability, and their financial security. So we have made a commitment. We don't want this community just to barely get by. We want them to thrive. And this requires an investment. I'm very grateful that we are seeing the beginning of that. Similarly, our focus on women and girls has been very, very important to me. Across the board, women have borne a larger brunt of the pandemic. In March, more than 1 million women in California remained unemployed, compared to 358,000 the year before, with women of color hit the hardest. Based on the analysis from US Census and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they think it will take a year and a half longer for women to bounce back from unemployment than it will for men. So it's necessary to make workforce investments to ensure that women have the support they need to re-enter the workforce. Years ago, there used to be a one-day women's strike where we were called upon to recognize a world without women working in it. And had it been totally perfect, I'm telling you, everything would have ground to a halt. Childcare, home health care, domestic work, things that people do not recognize underpin our whole work system. And so not only do women make up the workforce in service roles, but also own businesses in those sectors. And many of them did not benefit from PPP and other economic relief in the past year. So we have to include support for women-owned businesses in these sectors, the helping sectors, including grants, low-interest loans, and technical assistance. In particular, childcare will require our ongoing attention. In order for this sector to fully recover, childcare must be available. It also includes home visitation programs because unfortunately, the budget includes a reduction of 7 billion for home visitation programs. And we're keenly aware that this kind of home visitation has lasting benefits: healthier moms, healthier babies, children better prepared for school, safer children, more self-sufficient families. And frankly, these programs save money. So I want to let my colleagues know I'm probably going to do some continuing pushing over this year to work to stabilize and prioritize home visitation services. One of the most significant funding shortfalls that was underscored during the pandemic are the protections offered to survivors of domestic violence. We don't know yet precisely how much the need increased, but we still find ourselves unprepared to serve the total of this needy population. County has not adequately set aside ongoing funding to help stabilize the 18 contracted domestic violence shelter-based care agencies, and I want to continue working to make that happen. In addition to looking to ARP and state legislation, look at our potential funding opportunities, even homelessness funding, because that's what shelters do. Finally, I want to uplift for my colleagues a project in my own district that I intend to begin and continue to work for. We know that there is inequitable access to health care in several areas in LA County, especially in the first and the second, but not only. There are 4 hospitals in LA County, 1 in each supervisorial district, except for District 3. And many people say, well, District 3's got all those rich people. They don't really need it. But if you look at our maps, the reality is I have several areas in my district as well considered health deserts and communities of high need. North Hollywood is a federally designated health professional shortage area, and shortage is absolutely the right word. A recent study by HMA and DHS determined that North Hollywood is one of the top 10 neighborhoods in which our Department of Health Services should expand primary care services. So I'm hoping we can leverage existing county-owned property and support the development of a North Hollywood Integrated Health Center capital project. It will be the very first county health center built from the ground up with a vision of providing truly integrated care across all of our health departments and others, with an unprecedented team care model, primary care, mental health, substance use, healing community space, and this to a community that has limited access to any of these services. So in conclusion, and thank you for letting me articulate these points, we're really at a turning point, a pivot point, not only in history, but in the county. And I really feel very, very privileged to be part of a team so committed to making this work for our residents. So if we can continue to prioritize affordable housing, care first, jail last, our young people, our LGBTQ community, women and girls, and make real investments in health delivery in all of the areas that are so needy, I will be very grateful. And thank you so much for letting me articulate these priorities. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well said. Thank you, Supervisor Kuehl. Next, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Hahn representing the 4th District.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Boom, Supervisor Kuehl, that was a mic drop speech. That was remarkable and articulate, and we should end now. Yeah, too bad about going in numerical order. By the time you get to the 4th District and the 5th District, our esteemed colleagues have said it all and said it well. That Sheila used to always say, everything's been said, but it hasn't been said by everyone. So I find myself in that 4th position today. Maybe in the future for equity, we could start at 5 and go down to 1. Just a thought. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your leadership during all of this. And I will also associate my remarks with my colleagues in terms of the big thank you to our CEO and to her budget team, and acknowledge the incredible time that they've spent doing this and how important it is to get our budget to this phase. I know that you've worked long hours during, quote, budget season. which some say lasts for 6 months from the recommended budget in April through the supplemental budget in October. But I'm pretty sure they would agree that budget season goes from January through December every single year. This budget is a moral document, and it does reflect who we are as a county and what we truly value. In a year that was painful and stressful and seemingly never ending, we've had time to wrestle and be reflective with the way things have always been and the way things should be going forward. This pandemic has highlighted some already glaring inequities and untruths, and also helped us understand things that worked well during the pandemic that maybe we should hang on to. I'm so appreciative to all the members of the public who have raised their voices through the comments we heard both on May 19th and the hundreds that wrote in with specific requests about how they want their money spent in the future. And much of the comments from them, and certainly from my colleagues on this board, over various meetings over not just this year, but past years, have been about this care first, jail last style of monetary investment. And many of you have already touched on the fact that the courts have temporarily overturned Measure J and what that either means or doesn't mean. But I think it's clear that the voters really did want to make sure that all future boards of supervisors would carry the same vision of care first, jails last that this board has so declared as important to us. And it's clear that the five of us have never wavered from this vision, have never wavered from this idea of investing in the front end of people's lives, so that the back end doesn't end up in our jails, where we know the outcomes are not positive at all. This board is putting our money where our mouth is. We believe in this, and you can see that in this budget. And I just hope, I think about Supervisor Kuehl, we're going to be losing you at the end of 2022, and you have been a champion for this idea of redirecting the county's focus, our vision, and our budget towards investing in people. And I would just urge everyone who's looking to vote for a new Board of Supervisor at the end of next year, grills the candidates on if they indeed still believe that this is the right way to go forward. Now, I still want to say that I'm looking at adding up all the dollars that we're going to be spending in these types of investments, and I hope we can still find $50 million more, so that, again, we can support the spirit of Measure J and not just the law of Measure J. On May 19th, I remember speaking about one of the positive gains I think that we saw through the pandemic was teleworking. And it brought all sorts of challenges, but it also brought all sorts of positive outcomes. It's not all that glamorous all the time to work remotely. I think the phrase "you're on mute" should be on T-shirts and coffee mugs everywhere, because we still can't seem to figure that out. But I do think it brought forth a lot of positive changes. And I know many departments, I'm glad to say, have gone back to the drawing board and eliminated costly leased spaces to save the county millions of dollars annually. And they figured out how to leverage technology to replace the antiquated ideas of requiring every person to be in a certain seat to perform a certain job. We know that not every job allows for working from home. Some people actually do have to show up in a specific place to do a specific job. But many of our county workforce can be flexible. And my goal was never for 100% telework, but rather to explore what other models of working exist out there and could work to the benefit of all LA County employees. You know, we are still recovering from this pandemic. We're still emerging from this pandemic. We are not 100% on the other side yet. And there are still childcare issues with many of our county employees. Many summer camps did not reopen completely for in-person learning. Some schools still aren't reopening for in-person learning. And our county employees had to figure out how to juggle having kids go to school from home. And I think our teleworking model really embraced and understood the needs that families have as we're coming out of this pandemic. So I really want to continue to urge all departments to figure out how they can support their employees to continue to telework. And let's make sure that all employees have the technology that they need to do their jobs from home and do it well. I don't think this is the last large-scale disaster or emergency that the county will see in its future. And this was a good lesson on how people don't have to come into a specific building to do their work. And I really wanted to give a shout out to all of our county employees. Supervisor Solis, you did such a good job of that in your opening remarks. They have all worked hard under these difficult conditions, and they kept our county going, and they kept our services being delivered to those who most needed them. And they became disaster service workers, and lifeguards were checking in, some unhoused seniors into our project room keys. And they really stepped up to the plate. I just really wanted to thank all of our county employees for really doing their jobs under very difficult circumstances. You know, many of our county employees took involuntary cuts to their retirement, and I'm glad that in this budget that's being restored starting this week, and I appreciate that. A couple of other things I wanted to highlight. I'm really happy that we're restoring 147 workers to our parks department. You know, our parks are so important, and now that people are getting back out and doing things, I want to make sure that our parks have the staff and can really up the programs again as quickly as possible, and these employees will help us do that. These employees will be good for our lakes, our pools, the things that our residents really rely on, and I want to make sure that we continue to look for money to offer free swimming lessons for every person, every child, every young adult who wants to learn to swim in the county. There's no greater anecdote for drowning than learning to swim, and that's a program that I hope we can really look to fully fund. I want to make sure that our parks are safe, though, and we know that the Sheriff's Department had worked out on an MOU with our Parks Department to continue to be the Parks Bureau. It's very distressing to me that there was an incident recently in one of my county parks, the Don Canale Regional Park, where an older Asian man was attacked because of his race, and I was there at a rally Saturday supporting him and supporting the AAPI community. So we want to make sure our parks are safe. And I'm glad that we're going to invest $1 million into the LA versus Hate campaign, as well as the 211 system, because I believe if there was one thing we understood was if it is so true, particularly among our AAPI community, that standing up and saying something and speaking out when there is an incident of hate or when they can see bullying or harassment because of a person's race, that they need to say something. And 211 is that number, and I'm glad to see that we're putting money into that to show, again, we're ready to support. There's no room for hate in LA County. I know Supervisor Mitchell mentioned it, but I also wanted to say it's great to see that our newest department, Arts and Culture, is receiving funds to continue the Community Impact Arts Grant Program. This was really a hugely successful pilot program over the last few years, and I know local art organizations all over the county will benefit from this. I hear from them directly in my district that this was a much appreciated grant program. I'm happy that Fisa, you talked about we're going to get a little over $1 billion in the American Rescue Plan, and I look forward to making sure that we continue to invest in our Care First, Jail Last allocations with that, and we also invest in building more homes and making sure that we're really working to get our homeless residents off the streets and into permanent supportive housing. It's great that Project Home Key is going to get money for another 450 beds. I still believe that, master leasing motels and hotels is such a great model that really seems to be much more cost effective and efficient in immediately getting our unhoused neighbors off the streets and into safe, clean housing, 3 meals a day. They all have security. They really are the model that I think makes the biggest difference. And I hope we can make a huge step forward this next year with really getting to the root of why so many people are still becoming homeless on our streets and how we can do a better job of detecting that before it happens and keeping people from falling into homelessness. Just wanted to highlight as I end LA Sound, which is the great innovative program that helps families who have a loved one, a child, a senior who is subject to wandering through dementia and Alzheimer's or through autism. And it's been a very successful pilot program so far. And I think the standalone aging disability department is the perfect place to put LA Found now, because they'll be able to spotlight it and take it from a pilot to a permanent program, which I think is so important, as unfortunately we see more and more seniors who have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. And we do know that we also have a large segment of our population, mostly children, but also adults who are on the autism spectrum and who are also prone to wandering. So this is really important, and I appreciate it. I will be paying a lot of attention to this new aging and disability department. When I talk about it out there in public, the seniors are so excited about this and so happy that we're finally really giving them the department that they deserve, that we can now focus all the resources on our aging and certainly those with disabilities in one place. And I think that will help us leverage more funding, more grant opportunities, and we'll really begin to know that if you're a senior or someone who has a disability, LA County is the place that you will be able to age gracefully. Thanks again for this balanced budget, Fisia and your team. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Supervisor Barger representing the 5th District.
Well, thank you. And I will be brief because I think everyone's touched on really the budget and exactly what our priorities are as a county. But I'd like to thank Fisia Davenport, our CEO, Matt McGlowan, and our department heads and all the budget staff who worked so hard to present us with this budget. This is really, to me, one of the reasons why I think LA County is so great, is working together collaboratively to address the needs of our residents, at the same time being cognizant of being fiscally responsible. Our budget is vitally important because so many people depend upon county services. We've seen demands increase, but hopefully as we enter our recovery, we will see our economy grow once again, along with our revenues. During COVID-19, we saw unparalleled reductions in revenue that we depend upon to provide these vital services in areas of public safety, child welfare, health and mental health services, and so many other areas. I am grateful that through the American Rescue Plan, we received one-time revenues to address these revenue losses and will assist us in transitioning back to a recovered economy. I look forward to seeing the funding recommendations for the American Rescue Plan in July. COVID highlighted how strong our safety net system is, but also highlighted how much work we have to do as it relates to inequities in different areas, and Supervisor Kuehl touched on it as it relates to healthcare. And I saw it firsthand up in the Antelope Valley. Many rural areas that were disconnected from being able to get the testing and the vaccine. And I think that highlighted for us a need to really take a look at areas within the county that are still facing the need to increase services both on the health and the mental health side. We must continue our fiscal prudence to weather difficult times and to meet demands of the public for essential services. I want to acknowledge the board's fiscal prudence with the establishment of a hiring freeze and the existence of a rainy day fund, which provided a much needed cushion to ensure that we could carry out our responsibilities when the public needed it most. And we saw that last year. And again, that is exactly what the rainy day fund was put into play for, to help us bridge through those difficult times, which we were able to do. I would like to acknowledge and thank our CEO for allocating $13.9 million to this rainy day fund. This will bring us up to our full 10% set aside for the first time, and we will have a $731 million in this fund to provide us with fiscal support in the future if we need it. And again, I thank my colleagues for recognizing the importance of that, and Supervisor Chair Board Member Solis touched on the grading that we get in New York. This is one of the areas they look at, and that is why we have such a fiscal strong rating based on our fiscal projections. While the board will be deliberating on this budget, we must come back in October to provide the public with an updated budget. We will recalibrate based on the state adopted budget. I am hopeful that at the time we will be able to allocate an additional $5 million to the Parks and Rec Department to provide much needed programs at our parks, swimming pools, and lakes, and of course, our Parks After Dark program. In addition, I'm hopeful that revenues will be there to expand our mental evaluation teams. Public safety is of vital importance to me. The safety of our communities is crucial, especially during a time of rising crime rates. I support programs such as a mental evaluation team and other specialized resources that provide law enforcement with the tools needed to keep both them and our public safe. I would like to also highlight, Supervisor Kuehl had mentioned the affordable housing. I agree we need to be focused on that, but especially as it relates to our transitional age youth. It's important for us to provide funds and housing for those leaving our system, and we need to support them to allow them to get on their feet, whether it be through education or through job training. I also want to talk about the Care First, Jail Last. It's important for us to make sure that we have capacity within our within mental health treatment, especially as it relates to drug treatment. So I hope that we can aggressively work toward building a system that will support the Care First, Jail Last. Otherwise, we will be setting not only the system up for failure, but individuals coming in touch with our system. I want to also acknowledge, and Supervisor Hahn, you touched on this, our employees. During the COVID, I have to say that we saw the best of the best come forward. I am going to continue to advocate for a COVID appreciation pay for our frontline workers that showed up during these difficult times over the last year. I want to acknowledge each and every one of them, many who had to go home each evening after a very, very difficult day, and were concerned about the fact that they may have exposed their family to COVID, but yet they showed up and did the job, and we will forever be grateful for the incredible LA County workforce that showed up and really stepped up to the plate. So with that, I just have to say, because again, everything has been said, collaboration is the key. This budget and our county will only be successful when we work together. I would like to thank my colleagues for their commitment to the residents we are all elected to serve, and for each of your priorities. And as if anyone has taken note, you will find that we are all on the same page as it relates to providing quality services for our constituents and providing the resources necessary both within the county but also in the private sector to ensure that we have a system that truly does support and protect our residents. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Barger, and thank you also for your leadership when you were serving as chair during the pandemic and the start, and how you took us through many hurdles and challenges. So thank you for your valor, and thank your staff too, because I don't think people fully realize that even though many of us were not here at HOA, some of us were, and I know you were, and you continue to be, as well as your staff and some of the others. So we want to thank you. And I would just encourage everyone that's listening, if they can, to take a look at the video that was released regarding our opening on June the 15th, and it showcases all the wonderful employees of the county that stepped up and did yeoman's job in just making sure that the county continued to function. I think you'd find it very pleasing, but also a way to say thank you to all of you. So with that, members, we're now going to turn to public comment. So let me read the following. As indicated on the posted agenda, we'll be taking telephonic public comments during today's meeting. The Executive Office of the Board received over 40 written public comments for today's meeting. And as those written comments were received, all of them were available to the supervisors for their consideration, consistent with the Brown Act's requirements. We'll continue to accept written public comments throughout the meeting, which will become part of the official record. Madam Executive Officer, please read the call-in information that was also provided on the agenda and explain the speaking rules to those members of the public who are calling in to address the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As indicated on the agenda, members of the public wishing to offer public comment should call 877-226-8163 and use participant code number 365-8810. To repeat, please call 877-226-8163 and use participant code number 365-8810. Do not call that number if you only want to listen to the meeting. To listen only, please call 877-873-8017 and follow the instructions. Each person will have 1 minute to speak on the agenda items. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. With speaking on the agenda items, you must be on topic. If you're not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell if you're speaking on an agenda item, you will get one warning from County Council or the chair. If you do not immediately or clearly get on topic, or if you stray off topic again, you will forfeit the rest of your time and the chair will move to the next speaker. Please note, if you're also listening to the board meeting on a computer or speakerphone, you will need to turn down the volume on those devices as soon as the moderator calls on you, or there will be an echo. Moderator, may we have the first speaker, please?
As a reminder, to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1 then 0 at this time. Do not press 1 and 0 a second time, or your line will be removed from the queue.
Thank you. We will now hear the Spanish interpretation of this reminder.
Como recordatorio, para dirigirse a las supervisoras, si aún no lo ha hecho, presione 1 y luego 0 en este momento. No presione 1 y 0 por segunda vez o será eliminado de la fila. Gracias.
Thank you. May we have the first speaker, please?
Our first participant will be Adati Sherikar. Please state your agenda item that you're addressing today.
Good morning. I have public comment on items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. This is Aditi Sherikar from Children's Defense Fund, California. I'm calling to urge the board to fully fund Youth Justice Reimagined at the $75 million. It is unconscionable that the proposed budget gives probation more money than was allocated last year, despite the reduced number of youth supervised and incarcerated by probation, and despite the county's commitment to transition to a care-first model. The budget gives almost $410 million to juvenile institutions, an increase of over $10 million from last year. This signals a commitment to caging and incarcerating youth over investing in their future. Increasing the juvenile institutions budget while woefully underfunding YJR is in fact a jails first, care last model. The county must downsize the probation and juvenile institutions budget in order to move towards no more probation staff, no more probation dollars, and no more camps or halls. Please fully fund Youth Justice Reimagined at $75 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker will be Karudi Perez. Please state your agenda item followed by that you are addressing today.
Hi, greetings. My name is Kruti Parekh, and I'm with the Los Angeles Youth Uprising Coalition, and I'll be speaking on agenda item 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comments. Thank you, board and CEO, for all the comments that you've made up until now. I think there's a huge missing piece, and I'm hoping that today when you listen to your constituents, you will understand fully that without community involvement, we will not get to care first, jails last. We, countless members of our coalition participated in youth justice work groups to actually help to create the Youth Justice Reimagined, but no one was reached out to when this budget conversation happened. You really only invested, starting from $0 to $17 million on a Youth Justice Reimagined. Do you understand how overdue this is? There's so much hurt and harm that the county has caused young people. And as a youth worker for the last 16 years, I have lost so many young people, so much preventable violence, so much preventable mental health, helicopters at every block, law enforcement on every street, probation not supporting, not giving young people access to resources. So it's not a matter of, are we ready for $75 million? We've been ready for $75 million 10 years ago, 20 years ago, generations ago. So it is way overdue. I think that if there is the will of the Board of Supervisors to have true Youth Justice Reimagined, you need to ask the CEO to bring $75 million into the budget today, not yesterday, not 3 months from now, not 2 years from now, not 5 years from now, today. And please, when you don't know what to do, you have plenty of community members to tap. Please call on us to support you as we really, truly create a Youth Justice Reimagined. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Genevieve Clavero, please state your agenda item that you're addressing today.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Dr. Genevieve Clavero. I just want to tell you that you have done a fantastic job on that budget, and I'm glad I'm not the one doing it. But make sure you are focused on some of the esoteric items you are, put in the budget. So I hope that you remain fiscally sound like you have been in the past. Thank you for your good work, and please reopen the meetings as soon as possible. I think right now is that a really important issue, and that should have been part of your budget, the cost to reopen and so on. And I had not seen it, so I thought maybe I overlooked it, but that should be part of it. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Roy Humphreys, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
Items 1 through 8, I'm Roy Humphreys. And it's something that was brought by the CEO, and that is the demolishing of the men's jail, which is, as they say, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It has all the facilities to convert it or repurpose it, as you like to say, to facilities for the homeless and transitional and so forth. So that would just be a pathetic waste of resources in $117 million. And further, we have other issues that you put it on the budget or on the ballot to defund the sheriff. How about putting a ballot measure out there for people to raise taxes? Because how are you going to cut services, as you have here in Rowland Heights, so forth? How about giving the people the option? Do you want to go third world, or do you want to go first cabinet and get this stuff done properly? Also, we have the issue with the regional planning. That entire outfit should just be sacked and, quote, that repurposed on it, as witnessed by one of their representatives stating that on the Fullerton Road changed from Colima to the 60 freeway, they want to make it as painful as possible so that persons will not use it. So thank you for all the good things you do. And I was going to mention about the complicity of the Sheriff's Department and the board in the burning of the Martinez house here in Rowland Heights, but we'll save that for the write-in situation. Thank
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Olivia Shields, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please begin.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Olivia Shields from the Urban Peace Institute, and I'm giving public comment on agenda items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. As we know, the board unanimously passed a motion to fund Youth Justice Reimagined starting this year, and I'm urging you all to keep your commitment to the youth of Los Angeles County. Probation's juvenile budget is over $500 million, while YJR gets less than 3% of that, only $17 million. Choosing to continue to grow probation's budget by up to an additional $10.3 million in this proposed budget, while funding YJR at less than a third of what was promised, is antithetical to the vision the board has supported for the future of youth justice. By cutting all 186 vacant and frozen positions from the juvenile probation budget, we could allocate millions of additional dollars towards funding YJR, funding healing, funding the growth of young people, funding true community safety. The CEO claims they've allocated $26.1 million to Youth Justice Reimagined, but all of that money is going directly to the Youth Diversion and Development budget, focusing on expanding diversion countywide. This is not the same as funding YJR. We support YDD, but YJR is much more than expanding diversion. We urgently need funding for 24-hour youth community centers, for safe and secure healing centers, for services and infrastructure that center community and are dedicated to serving the needs of our young people. Please fully fund Youth Justice Reimagined at $75 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Anisha Hingorani, please state your agenda item. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Anisha Hingorani with Advancement Project California. I'm a member of the Park Equity Alliance, and I'm speaking on items 2A, 3F, and general public comment. The Park Equity Alliance is a coalition of community groups and advocates across LA County focused on high quality and equitable investments of Measure A dollars and county resources to eliminate racialized park disparities. I'd like to thank the board for partially restoring parks funding, including Parks After Dark's programming and 147 positions. I urge the board to restore the remaining $6.8 million in cuts to the department and invest existing and federal resources to put the department back on track to providing low-income young people and families of color with robust, safe, and healthy places and programming in a way that prioritizes areas of high and very high need where park pressure is already far above the county average. In addition, the Park Equity Alliance supports the urgent mandate of Measure J, which passed with 57% of the vote last year, because Angelenos recognize that the jail-first approach long championed by the sheriff has fundamentally failed. I urge the county to prioritize and fully fund the 10% of unrestricted budget for Measure J to community-generated recommendations and investments defined by Black and Indigenous community members. Finally, the county should continue to actively engage community members in shaping alternatives to the Sheriff's Park Bureau so that every community member can access parks without fear of profiling, criminalization, and police harassment. Our county's budget must invest funds towards programming and personnel in high and very high need communities, community safety park alternatives, and in reparative investments to address the root causes of racial injustice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Eddie Madrid, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please begin.
Hi, good morning to everyone in attendance. My name's Eddie Madrid. I'm a youth advocate with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I'm here to comment on items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and a general public comment of full solidarity to uphold youth justice reimagined and press this board to fully fund Measure J and discard this oppressive system that continues to discard our youth. At the age of 16, I was found unsuitable to be tried as a juvenile and was tried as an adult. My life was ruined, and I spent almost 13 years of my life in a system that didn't offer me help. I was discarded to a system that traumatized me. No kid should ever have his life ruined because our justice system rather debate over money. We need to fully fund youth development and our CBOs and not probation. The county's budget puts probation and the sheriff first and the youth last. We need to invest in a brighter future for our youth rather than their incarceration. $17 million for YDR is less than a third of what was promised and represents only 3% of probation juvenile budget. The CEO claims that they are giving $226 million to YDR, but it's entirely going to YDD's budget with the goal of expanding diversion countywide. This is not the same as YJR. We support YDD, but YJR is about much more than just expanding diversion. We do not need more probation, sheriffs, or institutions to continue to bring harm to our youth and our communities. We need jail change, and that change starts with youth justice reimagined. We do not stand for jails first and share last. We need to fund our communities and the future of our youth. Our youth are not dollar signs. They are our future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
As a reminder, if you want to address the board, please depress the 1 followed by the 0. Our next participant will be Ellen Geisey. Please state your agenda item. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Ellen Geisey, and I'm calling to speak on all of the agenda items and general public comment. Measure J is intended to correct the historical wrongdoings of the decades-long carceral infrastructure that fails to meet the needs of system-impacted communities. Instead, Measure J seeks to establish a care-first vision for all Angelenos. With more than 2 million voters saying yes on Measure J, the initiative set a minimum 10% set aside for locally generated unrestricted revenues for the Los Angeles County's overpopulated and dehumanizing criminal justice system. The Board of Supervisors has the authority to fund direct community investments and alternatives to incarceration without the mandate of Measure J. Measure J was meant to set a baseline for investment, and the board maintains the authority to implement the community-based solutions that were made through the Measure J community engagement process. Law enforcement special interest groups like the ALADS are trying to undermine the will of LA County voters. Again, more than 2 million of us said yes to Measure J to prioritize investment in services, not incarceration. LA County spends 42% of taxpayer money on law enforcement and the legal system. Law enforcement special interest groups are protecting a status quo budget because they benefit and profit from a carceral system that criminalizes and dehumanizes our most vulnerable communities.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Michelle Alger-Menti, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
I'm also speaking on all items, including public comment. And I'm going to pick up just where Ellen left off because we are right on the same page. Measure J realized the mandate by voters to be fully funded. That means 10% of locally generated unrestricted funds from the net county cost, which is upwards of approximately $900 million. In the last version of the budget, the CEO again only allocated $100 million for year one, an amount grossly below what is required for the type of need that is felt across communities in Los Angeles County. This is even after the county is projecting revenue increases and decreasing net cost funding gaps. Additionally, our young people need community care, not incarceration. The county's final budget gives almost $410 million to the juvenile institutions unit of the probation budget, an increase of over $10 million from last year. On June 17th, 2021, the total population of camps and halls was 391 youth, a trend which was sustained over many months. LA County will now spend over $1 million to incarcerate just one young person for a year. This is truly shameful and is a complete contradiction to Care First, Jails Last. When your budget does not align with your motions, it becomes very clear what your priorities are. Law enforcement first and youth development last. In November 2020, as part of the Youth Justice Reimagined and Care First, Jails Last, and the LA County Board of Supervisors committed to $750 million to youth development and began the process of defunding probation in the budget to be passed today. Instead, CEO gave $17.3 million for Youth Justice Reimagined after publicly saying that any funding would be premature and give juvenile probation even more money.
Excuse me, your time has expired. We have the next speaker, please.
Phyllis Willis, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
My agenda item is 2B in general public comment. My name is Phyllis Willis. I am the Senior Director of the WLCAC Older Adult Program and Senior Program and a resident and a provider of District 2 services. I want to thank, first of all, Madam Chair and the Board of Supervisors. I'm here today to support the adoption and funding of the new aging and disability. Myself and stakeholders have been closely monitoring the developments over several years, so we're excited to hear the progress today. We're asking also that case managers receive help in this district. I don't have time to go through the stories. They do. They deal with daily $300, $600 is what their clients actually make. So we bridge a lot of gaps, and especially in this COVID landscape. As you know, the number of older adults has grown during the last year and a half. The disabilities, chronic disease, food insecurity has continued to grow as we lost many lives during COVID. To address these growing inequities, we're also asking the rescue plan to increase funding for nutrition, case management, and to narrow the digital divide, especially for older adults that are Black and Latinx living below the poverty line. The new Aging and Disability Department has the potential to meet these challenges. As you know, by 2030, older adults will double that are 65 and older to 2.1 million. Right now is time in history to meet that challenge. The Los Angeles County older adults deserve an ambitious equity plan, starting with racial equity, social justice, and health equity.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Melinda Kakani, please state your agenda items, and your line is open.
Hi, I'll be speaking on items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. This is Melinda Kakani with Children's Defense Fund California. The impression the county and its leaders have given is that there's no way you are invested in wanting people to know and have a say in where this $36 billion budget is going, because if you did, you would never structure budget hearings, and that's in quotes like this. Transparency and accountability don't come from an hour and a half of patting each other on the back. It comes from asking hard questions, none of which I heard today. Second, pre-arrest prevention, that thing that you claim you're funding in the name of Youth Justice Reimagined, what is that? It appears nowhere in the Youth Justice Reimagined report. And if you're referencing diversion, then that alleged $17 million is actually going to YDD's budget, not the Youth Justice Reimagined vision. What this is gamesmanship, and people see it as that. These dollars are our dollars, the community's dollars, our children's dollars. Finally, motions focused on transforming systems that have historically preyed upon communities of color sound wonderful in the moment, but we all know that budgets are the true reflection of our values and priorities. When we spend over $400 million on the incarceration of children and $17.3 to undo the resulting harm, by investing in youth development, the board has indicated that their priority is maintaining the status quo and that Care First, Jails Last is just a catchy slogan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Nick Garcia, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
I'm Nick Garcia with the Hospital Association of Southern California. I'd like to speak on item 2 and general comment. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for prioritizing mental health in terms of increasing beds and expanding the mental health urgent care center network. On average, 5 to 7 patients are detained in emergency departments every 24 hours. In a random survey, 28 hospitals collectively admitted 180 patients on a 5150 or a 24-hour period. Of this total, 103 were later detained beyond 24 hours due to inability to place. We must also not ignore that access must be convenient and enable adult Medi-Cal patients to continue to access care at acute psychiatric hospitals. The urgency to build on existing access and capacity is further necessitated as the county expands PMRT and looks to close Min Central Jail. Finally, while COVID numbers in our county have edged upward slightly, I respectfully ask the Board of Supervisors to support hospitals via the American Rescue Plan. LA County accounted for 35% of the hospitalized COVID patients in California, and hospitals were truly altruistic in their response and now contend with the costly long-term financial repercussions that undermine our public-private health delivery system for future emergencies. Thank you very much for your time.
As
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
As a reminder, to address the board, please press 1010 to address the board. Our next question comes from the line of Emilio Zeppian. Please state your agenda item. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Emilio with the Youth Justice Coalition. I'm speaking on all agenda items and general public comment. Also with the LA Youth Uprising, and I'm urging you all to fully fund Measure J and Youth Justice Reimagined. YJC has been organizing for over 18 years to create a robust youth development department, specifically by moving our own tax dollars away from law enforcement and systems of harm. This is not a new concept. Please do not break your promise to young people impacted by the school of jail. In November, the board unanimously passed Youth Justice Reimagined to specifically move $75 million away from juvenile probation and into youth development. We need you all to put our money where our emotions are as a county. $17.3 million to expand YDD does not match what we celebrated as a massive community victory in the fall. Phase 1 of the plan calls for $55 million for community-based organizations already doing the work in our neighborhoods every single day for pre-arrest diversion, school-based support, re-entry, and peace building. In addition, the CEO budget recommendation also includes an increase of $10 million to juvenile probation. This means that
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Nicole Brown, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
Hi, I'd like to comment on agenda items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. Good morning. My name is Nicole Brown with the Urban Peace Institute and the Los Angeles Youth Uprising Coalition. I'm calling today to ask you to challenge the status quo and fully fund Measure J, the Care First budget, and Youth Justice Reimagined. As the county struggles to sustainably fund efforts to reduce incarceration, it's difficult to understand how this year's budget granted substantial increases to law enforcement, especially as voters have consistently shown how we want our tax dollars spent through Measure J, Measure H, and Measure R. On agenda item 3G, let's be clear, Youth Justice Reimagined is getting $17 million, not $26 million. The Youth Justice Reimagined motion, which passed unanimously in November, directed the CEO to identify $75 million by winding down juvenile probation to fund this new vision. Yet probation's budget has grown. $17.3 million to expand YDD and restart the planning process is less than a third of what was promised. And while we are in full support of this, Youth Justice Reimagined is about much more than simply expanding what the county is already doing. The CEO's memo fails to even acknowledge many recommendations in the report. For instance, phase 1 of the plan calls for $55 million to CBOs to fund not only countywide diversion, but school-based supports, re-entry, credible messengers, and peace builders. $17.3 million will not meaningfully fund any of these urgently needed services. There are many funding streams that can be leveraged to fully fund Youth Justice Reimagined, and we need to cut all vacant positions in juvenile probation and look at AB 109, Juvenile Probation Fund, and the Youth Offender Block Grant. Lastly, I would be remiss not to talk about the fact that juvenile probation's budget has grown. The juvenile institution's budget is set to spend $410 million to incarcerate less than 400 young people in the camps and halls.
This is truly
Excuse me,
shameful.
your time
It
has
stands in
expired.
complete
May we have the
contradiction.
next speaker, please?
Miguel Cesar, please state your agenda item. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Miguel Casar. I work at the Center for the Transformation of Schools at UCLA. I'm speaking to items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. I speak respectfully and kindly, and I'm also speaking with frustration about having to show up again and again to ask you all to do what is reasonable, what is aligned to what we know about justice, and what the community has asked you to do. Everything I've heard today has felt like damage control. The tone has changed, that's clear, and that is a reflection of people holding you all accountable. You say today that the budget is a moral document. I think it's an immoral document. You think of this as a testament to our values. It's a testament to the structural racism and injustice that was baked into this country and its institutions from the beginning. The being okay with the continuous hemorrhaging of public money to institutions that we know continue to harm our communities is egregious. You ask us to be okay with platitudes and also seem to be happy and proud of the state of affairs when we're actually in a growing crisis. For those of us who are on the ground every day, we are not okay with those. For us, as for families of color and marginalized peoples in the city, we are reminded every day that the norm is violent, the norm is oppressive, and the normal budget, quote unquote, including these incremental and performative budgets, is endorsing a normality that is violent. We are not asking for extras. We are asking you to pass a budget that does not endorse institutions that infringe upon the rights of people. Care affairs cannot happen until we recognize, we defund, and we abolish the harm that is being done every day. We formed the committee.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
As a reminder, to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1 then 0 at this time. Do not press 1 and 0 a second time, or you will be removed from the queue. Carlo Benavidez, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
Hi, I'm speaking on item number 2B. My name is Carlos Benavidez. I'm honored to sit on the LACCOD, but I also chair the Patient Advisory Council in Rancho Los Amigos, where I represent the disabled patients and their families and caregivers. So I understand the challenges that we face as being disabled. I'm also a wheelchair user, but today I'm speaking on behalf of older adults and dependent adults who have been waiting too long to have a department that meets the needs of our growing community, of this growing population. There are many commissions that include older adults, but I feel that a program specifically that targets our older adults is what is needed. Thank you all for your continued support and the work and program that you as the Board of Supervisors do.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Becky Montez, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
Okay. Hi, I'm here to speak on agenda items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. I'm with the California Conference for Equality and Justice and Los Angeles Youth Uprising. So the board's decision last November to invest $75 million to youth development and begin the process of defunding probation marked your commitment to a long overdue transformation of what accountability, safety, and youth justice in LA County can look like. From a harmful and ineffective system based on punishment to one rooted in care, youth development, and the healing of our youth, families, and communities. We know that policing and probation disproportionately target Black youth and youth of color, and we know the harm and generationally enduring pain experienced by our youth who have and continue to be impacted by these systems. If you truly believe in care first, jails last, then this is a crucial opportunity that you cannot miss to align the county with motions you took and values you claimed in November 2020. Our youth, families, and communities can't wait anymore and deserve for you to do all that you can to invest in Youth Justice Reimagined and divest from harmful punitive systems like probation and policing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Markel Reed, please state your agenda item. You may begin.
Good morning, board. My name is Markel Reed. I'll be addressing agenda items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. I want to issue a question to Madam Chair and the entire board. Are we being reactionary or really transformative? Because when CEO Davenport decided to fully fund and make a commitment to Youth Justice Reimagined with the $75 million, our expectation was that we were moving away from punitive systems. However, due to our discontent of seeing the sheriff getting an increase of $34 million and then probation getting an increase of $800,000, That shows us that we're still being reactionary and focusing on diversion. Our question is, why only get 17.3 million when we asked for 75 million? We can do better than this, and we owe it to the youth of LA to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Black Jackson, please state your agenda items. You may begin.
I'm shit. I'm gonna speak on agenda item 1, 2, and 3. And I have no position. But good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Black Jackson. I'm with the Youth Justice Coalition, Brothers from Coalition, Los Angeles Youth Advising Coalition. 19 years old from South Central Los Angeles, Crenshaw District. I got into this work that's been pushed out of Crenshaw High School and getting caught up into the system and being put on probation. This is when I found Juvenile Justice Center and ended up graduating on time from YJC for LA High School in 2020. This issue has affected me personally my whole life due to the fact my brother got shot and killed by the Los Angeles Police Department 77 Precinct in 1994. The police on scene didn't call for ambulance and my brother needed help after they shot him, whereas my mom watched my brother spend his last day before Christmas being out on the street, when the people watched George Floyd die right in front of their eyes, which in my opinion has sparked the outrage and increased activism we see today. Both my brother George Floyd should be alive today. To this day, my mom was hyper vigilant with my safety knowing my brother died before making it to 20 years old, and I will be turning 20 this fall. Young organizers like myself who experiences are similar to these situations are horrified and haunted about what can happen to us. Again, George Floyd and my brother are two of the same stories, even though they died 26 years apart. Today, we still invest billions to the police department and $0 in youth development here in LA County. The last weekend, police officers continue to kill about 3 Americans per day, on average, virtually the same as before George Floyd murder.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
All right, appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker comes from the line of Jared O'Brien, and please address your agenda item.
2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. Good morning. My name is Jared with the Youth Justice Coalition. I'm here to urge the LA County BOS to fully fund Youth Justice Reimagined. $17 million for YJR is less than a third of what was promised and represents only 3% of the juvenile probation budget. It's been too long that you have been neglected, tormented, and victimized by the system. Now to hear that we're not getting any funding, or little to no funding, actually. I have been fighting for youth development for years and years. Year after year, we are disappointed by the patterns of hypocrisy and lack of empathy for youth that the Board of Supervisors show. We need robust youth development, and we need youth development all across LA County. We demand the funding of YJR. We demand that the Board of Supervisors fully fund Youth Justice Reimagined. Thank you.
And once again, if you do have a question, yes, if you do have a question, it is 1-0 at this time, and we'll go to the line of Mello Zyfrid. Your line is open.
Please begin.
We'll go to the line of Jill Below. Please address your agenda item.
I'm going to make comment on all of them. I am calling from White People for Black Lives, and I'm a substitute teacher with the Los Angeles Unified School District. Measure J is intended to correct the historical wrongdoings of a decade-long carceral infrastructure that fails to meet the needs of system-impacted communities, like my students and the communities that they live in. Instead, Measure J seeks to establish a care-first vision for all Angelinos. Our young people need community care, not incarceration. My students don't need to go to jail for any reason. They should not go to jail for any reason. We have the supports in place in their communities. We need to remove police from answering social and health crises when they are not needed and often cause more harm than good. They're just going to take a gun out and shoot people and shoot my students, then I don't want them around. They're unnecessary. We need to reinvest the $35 million annually spent on the Los Angeles Sheriff Department substations at our county hospitals towards hospitals-based community safety strategies. They're not doctors. They're not EMTs, and they're not trained to do any of those calls, so they don't need to be there. Meaningfully invest in bolstering services rooted in care, not harm, by ensuring organizations have the funding necessary to meet the needs of our communities, of my communities, where my students live and where I live.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please? Next speaker, please.
Yes, we'll go to the line of Alex.
Hello, it's Eric Previn calling from Studio City, and I've looked at I have to tell you, the LASA component fire from the city of Los Angeles, where yesterday or a couple days ago, they had John Wickham from the CLA's office outlining how the city could divest from LASA and the various governance problems with LASA, which, as you know, this Board of Supervisors are largely, it's the county and the city in partnership in LASA. It's a joint powers authority. Parts of LASA have authority with no accountability. Parts of LASA are held accountable but have no authority. It is a hornet's nest, and the only way out of it is transparency and honoring the rules and the laws, which the city feels the county doesn't do. The county has been a terrible partner, according to the city, and LASA is in the middle. Poor Heidi has done all she can, and you're busy congratulating yourselves when the county is being attacked by all of the council members trying to get people off the street for Judge Carter. So it's a terrible problem, and you're fighting your own sheriff endlessly, who was applauded, it seems, in the LA Times the other day for actually moving things forward. We just want to have regular meetings, not 10 special or canceled meetings from Memorial Day to Labor Day, resulting in a prohibition of criticism against you. That's not.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
And we'll go to the line of Monica Almeida. And you have 1 minute. Please state which items you'll be addressing.
Hi, this is Monica Almeida. This is general public comment. Your budget is a disaster borrowed recipe that many other countries in the world follow to their destruction. It is in complete disconnection with humanity and reality. The agenda you're pushing does not represent the public. Your mail-in and Wi-Fi voting systems are not secure and fraudulent, and you want to funnel more money onto it. Considering demolishing a jail building to make sure it will not be used again, you will be demolishing our taxpayers' money. And it didn't occur to you to repurpose the building? This decision is part of a dark agenda you're pushing to destroy California further. What you call justice reimagined is about releasing criminals, giving them housing and food. You neglected to tell us that you're reimagining justice destroyed. All your efforts are to help criminals, to help them out of jail and giving them free housing and food. How is this not a recipe for more crime, less workforce, more abuse, rape, entitlement? All of you know what you're doing very well, and you will be brought to justice sooner than later. The best is yet to come.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, and once again, as a reminder to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1, then 0 at this time. Do not press 1, 0 a second time or you will be removed from queue. We'll go to the line of Yolanda Navrati. Please address your question.
Hi, yes, I'm speaking on all items. And planning on increases in the jail population runs counter to the spirit of Measure J and a care-first approach. We need a plan and invest in the future rooted in care and to close all prisons. And during the height of the COVID-19, the sheriff's data through the Maintaining a Reduced Jail Population Work Group concluded that they were able to drop the jail population approximately 12,000 people. And yet this fiscal year, the office is projected to hold populations of around 16,700, an increase of 4,700 people. This past week, the jail closure implementation team was created, which is not mentioned in the new version of the budget. The plan is to close Men's Central Jail, was submitted to the Board of Supervisors in March of 2021 and articulated a vision to reduce the jail population by at least 4,500. are the presumptions of the diversion and the released jail custody. This plan also encompassed a non-displacement principle to ensure thousands of beds would be built in the community so that individuals exiting the jail would have a safe place to rebuild their lives.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Thank you.
And that is the line of Alex Dobbs. You have 1 minute. Please state which items you will be addressing.
Hi, my name is Alex Dobbs. I'll be addressing 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. I'm a youth pastor in East LA with Hope Community Church of East LA, and I'm also a constituent of the 1st District, and I like my comments to be submitted to the public record. Our church meets at the Boys and Girls Club of East LA, now called East LA Rising on McDonald and Cesar Chavez, which is a historic community institution that serves youth, and yet it has, even for years before the pandemic, been severely underfunded. For months, I've seen the pool go empty or programs get cut due to lack of funding. And when I first heard about Measure J, I got really excited about it, not only because of its transformational vision for funding alternatives to incarceration, but because I saw its potential to fund much-needed resources for youth and families in East LA. When I talk to adults in East LA about where they would want community resources to go if they had the power to choose where $10 million goes, over 80% say they want to fund youth resources. Single moms want to fund sports programs so youth who can't afford it can be involved in sports. Ex-gangsters want after-school programs so the next generation has what they wish they had, an after-school community that would invest in them and keep them out of trouble. Teachers and parents want housing to be more affordable so that parents don't have to work 2 to 3 jobs to get their rent, and thus can be more present and available to their children. I urge you to fully fund the Youth Justice Initiative at $75 million as promised in November 2020 and to fully fund Measure J at $900 million. And I'm curious why we're relying on federal stimulus funds to fund community youth services when the purpose of Measure J is to create a funding source for such community organizations and resources. The County Auditor Controller for 2020 to 2021 said that there's over $4 billion in property tax revenues that were allocated for unincorporated areas. 10% of that would be $400 million for Measure J, and that's just property taxes, not including other locally generated revenues. Do you have the power to...
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
We'll go to the line of Heidi Hong. You have 1 minute. Please state which items you will be addressing.
Please begin.
Hello, my name is Ivy Hong, and I'm speaking on items 1, 2, 3B, 4B, and general public comment. I'm representing the Southeast Asian Community Alliance, where we are here in support of the Housing LA budget priorities, including fully funding tenant protection strategies to ensure our most vulnerable communities are not displaced and greatly expanding affordable housing throughout the county. In order to ensure a just recovery that puts us on a better footing to affordable housing production, we must prioritize creative solutions to land acquisition. We urge you to fund the Los Angeles County Land Bank pilot project. The land bank would reduce speculation and lower development costs by acquiring properties quickly and work with the community land trust to make the housing development process faster, more affordable, and more predictable for CLTs. The county budget must reflect the urgency faced by families living on the edge. Please fund the Healthy LA budget priorities, including the land bank pilot project, as well as Measure J. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We'll go to Oscar Canales. You have 1 minute. Please state which items you will be addressing.
Hi, my name is Oscar Canales. I'm a youth. The items I will be addressing is items 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. Hi, my name is Oscar Canales. I'm a youth advocate with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition as well with the Los Angeles Youth Uprising Coalition. My pronouns are he and his. I am here to ask the Board of Supervisors to fully fund Measure J and to fully fund Youth Justice Reimagined. We have been for too long subjected to punitive treatment generations and generations of racial disparity and socio-economic racial separation to our youth. The board is underfunding Youth Justice Reimagined while growing probation's budget. $17 million for YJR is less than a third of what was promised and represents only 3% of probation juvenile budget, which is over $500 million. The CEO claims that they are giving $26 million to YGR, but it is entirely going to YDD's budget with the goal of expanding diversion countywide. That is not the same as YJR. CEO would have given $0 to YGR. We, everybody on this call, have not been pushing. In the budget the board is passing today, probation will receive 9.5 more than last year, including an additional 10.3 million for juvenile institutions. I experienced firsthand being labeled and subjected to total inhumane conditions while being quote-unquote rehabilitated by the system that is currently designed for young people to fail and to get incarcerated. Once again, we continue the pattern of not hearing the voices of the people from the community. I ask the Board of Supervisors to listen to everybody on this call and to fully fund YJR and Measure J. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
And we'll go to Yelena Seltzer. You have 1 minute. Please state which items you will be addressing.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please begin.
Hello, my name is Yelena Zeltzer, and I'm speaking on items 1, 2, 3B, 4B, and general public comment. I'm speaking on behalf of Southeast Asian Community Alliance and the low-income refugee and immigrant youth and families that we represent. Our community of Chinatown has been one of the most hardest hit by the effects of COVID pandemic and the ensuing economic crisis. Our county budget needs to meet the moment and address systemic reasons for COVID's devastating effect on essential workers, immigrants, and low-income households. We ask you to fully fund the Healthy LA budget priorities. Among them, I want to highlight the need for seed funding for land bank pilot project. We need a Los Angeles County land bank in order to stabilize our market for affordable housing, protect properties from predatory development, and work with community land trusts to come out of this crisis with a robust ability to house our most vulnerable residents. We urge you to fund Healthy LA budget priorities, including the land bank pilot project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
And as a reminder, to address the board, if you have not already done so, please press 1 then 0 at this time. Do not press 1 0 a second time or you will be removed from queue. Go to the line of Veronica Ortiz, and you have 1 minute. Please state which items you will be addressing.
I'll be addressing agenda item 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comment. I'm a clinical case manager with New Earth Organization. I want to urge the board to fully fund Youth Justice Reimagine in the June budget for the full $75 million, including $55 million for community-based organizations, as outlined in the YJR report, and keep your commitment to care first and jails last. As a clinical case manager working within juvenile detention centers for the past 6 years, I have dealt with countless losses of youth and lack of programming and community insights that is needed to fully rehabilitate our youth. Care first and jails last is just a slogan at this point. The county's budget puts probation and the sheriff first and youth last. We must invest in a brighter future for our youth rather than incarceration. This budget fails the commitments that the board has made through their motions and various efforts, such as Youth Justice Work Group and Alternatives to Incarceration. As a reminder, the board anonymously passed a motion to kickstart YJR this year, and we are asking that you keep that commitment. We should reduce probation's budget, particularly for juvenile probation, in order to fund Youth Justice Reimagine. We must cut all vacant and frozen positions from the juvenile probation budget. The CEO recommends $409 million to incarcerate 400 young people. That would be spending over $1 million per year per youth. This budget needs transparency and opportunities for participatory budgeting. Too often your public budgets are treated as something top secret. We deserve to be able to understand the budget, how the CEO makes recommendations, and to weigh in on it. Too often
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Yes, and that is from the line of Kent Mendoza. You have 1 minute. Please state which items you will be addressing.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please begin.
Oh, sorry. I'm speaking on item. Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Kent Mendoza. I'm with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition and also with the LA Youth Uprising Coalition. I'm speaking on item number 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and general public comments. And I just want to reiterate what everybody has been talking about. We really need to make sure that the county fully funds Youth Justice Reimagine. We need to make sure that we identify all the money that is necessary to create the Department of Youth Diversion and Development, and also ensure that we're not creating another system that is just going to be the old one, so ensuring that we're not duplicating the same system of incarceration for young people.
I think my main message that I want to get across is that our job as a society and your job as elected officials and agencies that run this county, we need to make sure that all young people from the day they are born, they are receiving all the opportunities, resources, and chances and exposures to become the best versions of themselves. So that means investing in them from an early age, all the way to they reach the age of 25, because our young people don't fully develop until they're all the way until the age of 25. So we give them the right tools from a young age, from elementary, middle school, high school. By the time they are 25 years of age, all of our young people should be ready to enter society and in the world and contribute to it. So we need to make sure that Youth Justice Reimagined, Measure J, of all of these things that we are talking about, Care First, reimagining all these systems, is the goal to make sure that all human beings from the day they are born, they develop to become the best versions of themselves. And that means implementing things like the Youth Justice Reimagined and everything that is around it. So I just want to really urge the board to really hold the CEO office accountable and really be bold about taking new steps in new directions on where we want to end up in this county when we talk about youth. And youth
Excuse
justice.
me,
So
your time has
thank you so
expired.
much.
May we have the next speaker, please?
We'll go to the line of Mello Zefried. You have 1 minute. Please state which items you will be addressing.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please begin.
Hello? Okay, hi. So, where is this? I'm addressing addenda number 1, 2A, 2B, 3G, and public comment concerning Youth Justice Reimagined. Where is the $61 million going? We have a serious racial profiling with your lead deputy, Jeff Dietrich, and we have some issues with low funding for community organizations. Yet you have organizers that are coming on year after year stating, where is the funding? You have some great people that came to Isaac Bryan's inauguration on Saturday, and he's a co-author of Measure J. So the very same politicians who are supporting Isaac Bryan, we should have $61 million for Youth Justice Reimagined already, rather than asking for diversion funding. This is the same song and dance. There is more profit that you make keeping our black and brown babies locked up. We understand that. But this is the year that you got to stop with the BS, please. We're going to ask you kindly to please do your math. Put the $61 million to make it the 75 that it should have been since it was agreed upon since last year. And we would appreciate that the homeless, incarceration, that the housing entities that you guys are not funding get funded the way it should be. And Jeff Dietrich to be put in jail. That is a personal request, because you cannot keep giving the sheriff funding for them to continue to racially profile while you take away funding for our youth for diversion programs. It's hypocritical.
Excuse me, your
and
time
it's
has
unacceptable.
expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
And Madam Chair, there are no other speakers in queue to address the board.
Thank you very much. Our time for public speakers has ended. Thank you to all that called in to speak. If you were unable to provide your comments, you can still submit written comments as indicated on the agenda. And we will continue to accept all written comments that come in during the meeting, which will become part of the official record. Now, members, we are going to turn to fiscal year 2020-21 budget issues, and we will hear from our Chief Executive Officer, Thesia Davenport, on item number 1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agenda item number 1, fiscal year 2021 budget issues. So this item is the mid-year appropriation and budget adjustment board letter, commonly known as the mid-year BA. It makes a variety of adjustments to the fiscal year 2020-2021 final adopted budget to account for changes since the budget was adopted on September 29, 2020. These changes are necessary to align the fiscal year 2021 final adopted budget with post-adoption transactions that make sure that the budget is aligned. I'm happy to address any questions you may have on this item. If there are no questions, however, I recommend that your board move to approve this item.
Thank you. Are there any members from the board that would like to make a comment on this item before us? Okay. Item number 1 is before us. It is moved by Supervisor Mitchell, seconded by Supervisor Kuehl. Madam Executive Officer, please call the roll.
Item 1 is before you. Supervisor Mitchell.
Aye.
Supervisor Mitchell, aye. Supervisor Kuehl.
Aye.
Supervisor Kuehl, aye. Supervisor Hahn.
Aye.
Supervisor Hahn, aye. Supervisor Barger.
Aye.
Supervisor Barger, aye. Supervisor Solis.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our Chief Executive Officer, Phaedra Davenport, on item number 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agenda item number 2 is comprised of 3 recommendations. The first agenda item 2A is a report comprised of a compilation of issues raised at public budget hearings by oral and written testimony, including each individual supervisor's request as well as departmental requests for additional funding for various programs. The recommendation here is that your board receive and file this report. Next is agenda item number 2B. Agenda item 2B is the Chief Executive Office's board letter recommending adjustments to the fiscal year 21-22 recommended county budget. The agenda item is comprised of 5 recommendations. The first recommendation seeks a finding that the proposed capital project actions referenced in this board letter are not a project within the meaning of the California Environmental Quality Act based on the record of proposed activities. The next recommendation requests that your board adopt the proposed changes to the fiscal year 21-22 recommended county budget as set forth in the attachments to this board letter. Item number 3 seeks authorization for the CEO or my designee to execute, amend, or terminate as necessary a funding agreement with the LA County Development Authority. Item number 4 seeks authorization for the Acting Director of Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Services or his designee to execute, amend, or terminate as necessary a funding agreement with the Los Angeles County Development Authority. And finally, item number 5 seeks authorization for the Executive Officer of the Board of Supervisors to execute, amend, or terminate as necessary funding agreements with the LA Opera and the LA County High School for the Arts as set forth in the letter. The last agenda item is item number 2C, and this is a request that your board order such revisions, additions, and changes to the CEO's budget recommendations as deemed necessary. This concludes all items for agenda item number 2. Happy to take any questions you may have. If there are no questions, I recommend that your board move to approve this item.
Yes, I believe I see Supervisor Mitchell, who has a question.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's actually not a question. It's really more of a statement. In hearing much of the public comment today with regard to Measure J, and seeing as I pulled into the Hall of Administration today the signs and the protesters outside, I just wanted to make a quick comment about Measure J, and I thought before we voted on this item too, it was probably the most appropriate time. I want to make sure, my colleagues in their opening statements, several of them reasserted, if you will, our commitment to the spirit of Measure J, acknowledging the number of LA County residents that voted to support it, and I stand by that. What I'd like to do at this point is highlight a few areas that I think warrant a closer look as we consider the future funding that would be available for Care First and community investment. I think a new approach to calculating the appropriate funding for alternatives to incarceration and direct community investment, we should consider what funds would be, quote, restricted, end quote, from that category. I know that there's been lots of conversations around kind of semantics in terms of what category of funds would be counted toward the 10% as stipulated in Measure J. But I think decisions that the board makes now about building leases should not be used to limit the potential pool of available funds. In most cases, there are options for reducing or eliminating these costs over time. When calculating the available funds, judgments, damages, and settlements for the carceral departments, including the DA, sheriff, and probation, I don't feel should be used to limit the total available funds. While it's clear these are costs that the county is obligated to pay, it goes against the spirit of our efforts and the will of the voters that lawsuits against these carceral departments should reduce the amount of money available for community investment. Further, I believe considerations of changes like these to our process for calculating available funds could increase our investment in alternatives to incarceration and community investment by tens of millions of dollars each year. That, including identified one-time funding in the Care First and community investment budget, will also allow the county to increase the impact of this funding. Ongoing funding for these initiatives is key to sustained success, but one-time funding can also be a valuable budgeting tool to support one-time costs. I just wanted to share that as we acknowledge the fact that we will continue to fund according to the will of the voters, but I wanted to acknowledge that we do have an opportunity to look more closely at how we define the pots of money we will identify as available and should be included in this recalculation, and wanted to just make that statement before we cast our vote on item 2. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from members of the board?
Madam Chair, the Supervisor Hahn, Fezia, could you just, I understand item 2 is broken up into these sub-items, and I was following you until you got to 2C. And could you reiterate what we're voting on under 2C?
Thank you, Supervisor. So item 2C is a standard cleanup provision, and basically we're asking that the board order any revisions or changes to the recommended budget as may be as deemed necessary. So I don't anticipate that there's anything that we would necessarily have to do today, but if there was something that we needed to change to align the budget figures to what the board actually adopts today, this is a catch-all provision that allows us to do that.
So it's just kind of giving you a blank check, so to speak.
No, I would not call it a blank check, Supervisor. I would say it provides me with a tool to make sure that this budget is aligned with the board's order and adoption of the budget.
Okay, because it was my understanding that was reserved for a supervisor if they specifically brought forward a money motion, so to speak.
Supervisor,
and since we didn't specifically do that today, I was still curious on how we were including 2C.
Supervisor, actually that is correct. It does also include the ability, if there were a money motion that was introduced today, it would allow the CEO's office to align the budget as adopted, including any new motions.
Right, but we didn't bring any new motions forward, correct?
That is my understanding, Supervisor, correct.
So, okay. Still a little confusing on 2C, but I think I get it.
I would thank you for that question, Supervisor Hahn. I would just say that perhaps for the public who may not be aware, typically if there are motions, they could have impacts on the budget in terms of personnel, and that could impact our labor agreements, which we don't want to do haphazardly. We need to be very careful about all that. So just an FYI. Are there any other questions? If not, members, I'd like to present the item. Items 2A through 2C are before us, moved by Supervisor Hahn, seconded by me. Madam Executive Officer, please call the roll.
Items 2A through 2C are before you. Supervisor Mitchell.
Aye.
Supervisor Mitchell, aye. Supervisor Kuehl.
Aye.
Supervisor Kuehl, aye. Supervisor Hahn.
Aye.
Supervisor Hahn, aye. Supervisor Barger.
Aye.
Supervisor Barger, aye. Supervisor Solis.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Now we'll hear from our Executive Officer, Fezia Davenport, on item number 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agenda item number 3 is actually composed of 7 reports back, which were all deferred to budget deliberations. I won't go through each of the reports in detail, but I will outline the report topics The first report relates to annual revenue from marina leasehold extensions. Looks like a report we've been doing for a couple of years now. The next report relates to the Affordable Housing Budget Unit, which we are funding at $100 million. The third report back relates to the LA versus Hate program, which we have heard comments about during a hearing. The report identifies $931,000 in funding. The next report relates to the Community Impact Arts program, which we also talked about earlier, identifies $750,000 in funding to sustain this program. The next report also relates to a program in the Arts Department. It's the implementation of the countywide cultural policy and implementation program. The report identifies $250,000 for consulting services and defers to the next budget phase request for permanent staffing. And then the final report, the sixth report relates to the restoration of the parks and recs, aquatics, lakes, and recreation program. This report identifies funding for those programs as well as funding for Parks After Dark. And we will, of course, continue to work with the Parks Department to ensure that all of the assumptions that we made in putting together this funding plan are accurate. And we'll be revisiting that in the supplemental changes budget. And then the last report back, which is the seventh one, relates to Youth Justice Reimagine report. The report indicates that the program will, for youth development and diversion programs run by YDD, will be fully funded this year. That constitutes the 7 report backs in this section. That concludes all the items for agenda item number 3. Happy to address any questions you may have, and if not, I recommend that your board move to receive and file the 7 reports and approve items 3A through 3G.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns from board members? Seeing none, items 3A through 3G are before us, moved by Supervisor Barger, seconded by Supervisor Kuehl. Madam Executive Officer, please call the roll.
Item 3A through 3G are before you. Supervisor Mitchell.
Aye.
Supervisor Mitchell, aye. Supervisor Kuehl.
Aye.
Supervisor Kuehl, aye. Supervisor Hahn.
Aye.
Supervisor Hahn, aye. Supervisor Barger.
Aye.
Supervisor Barger, aye. Supervisor Solis.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, members. Now we'll hear from our Chief Executive Officer, Fizia Davenport, on item number 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agenda item number 4 is comprised of 3 recommendations, items 4A through 4C. Item 4A is a standard recommendation to your board to adopt the resolution approving the appropriations limit, also known as the GAN limit, and the appropriations subject to limit for the fiscal year 21-22 budget. Item 4B is a recommendation that your board approve the revised figures as the final budget for fiscal year 21-22 and instruct the auditor controller to prepare and present the final budget resolution for board adoption. And finally, item 4C is a recommendation that your board approve 12 miscellaneous items, which include authority to approve agreements on the terms set forth in this board letter, approval of accounting and budgetary policies as set forth in this board letter, approval of transfers of appropriation as set forth in this board letter, and finally, approval of temporary transfers of positions between departments based on the conditions set forth in this board letter. This concludes all the items in agenda item number 4. Happy to address any questions. If there are no questions, I recommend that your board move to approve this item.
Are there any questions from board members? Seeing none at this time, items 4A through 4C are before us, moved by Supervisor Kuehl, seconded by Supervisor Hahn. Madam Executive Officer, please call the roll.
Items 4A through 4C is before you. Supervisor Mitchell.
Aye.
Supervisor Mitchell, aye. Supervisor Kuehl.
Aye.
Supervisor Kuehl, aye. Supervisor Hahn.
Aye.
Supervisor Hahn, aye. Supervisor Barger.
Aye.
Supervisor Barger, aye. Supervisor Solis.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I understand our executive Officer Pooja Davenport wanted to make a statement.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to close out my portion of today's agenda, first of all, I wanted to thank you again, the board, for your leadership through what has been a very difficult year for the county and for those who rely on us. I also wanted to thank the budget board deputies for their support and collaboration in developing this budget. Tammy Amoto Frias from the 1st District, Kirk Shelton from the 2nd District, Angelica Ayala from the 3rd District, Mark Backham from the 4th District, and Rick Velasquez from the 5th District. And finally, I also want to thank all of the department heads and their budget and fiscal staff for all of the hard work in developing the budget, as well as the thousands of county employees who stood up during a very difficult year to ensure that we continue to provide services. Thank you.
Very much to our CEO and your staff and everyone that helped to make this day possible. I know it's tireless work, and sometimes we don't all get the recognition. Your staffs and others that work and belabor late into the evening on weekends just to make this all happen for the 10 million residents that we represent. So thank you on behalf of the board. I appreciate that. Members, now we'll go to item number 5, which will be presented by our Auditor Controller, Arlene Barrera.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. Arlene Barrera, Auditor Controller. On April 20th, your board approved the fiscal year 2021-22 recommended budget. This afternoon, we have updated all the adjustments that your board approved in your discussion earlier today. The fiscal year 2021-22 final budget is balanced and ready for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members on this item? Seeing none, item 5 is before us, moved by Supervisor Kuehl, seconded by me. Madam Executive Officer, please call the roll.
Item 5 is before you. Supervisor Mitchell.
Aye.
Supervisor Mitchell, aye. Supervisor Kuehl.
Aye.
Supervisor Kuehl, aye. Supervisor Hahn.
Aye.
Supervisor Hahn, aye. Supervisor Barger.
Aye.
Supervisor Barger, aye. Supervisor Solis.
Aye.
Supervisor Solis, aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Members, that concludes today's very important budget meeting. I want to thank everyone who has joined us today, those that called in, those that have voiced their opinions and had spent time collaborating and talking to our staffs, and each and every one of our county employees that has worked so hard this past year. I look forward to a better year coming, starting July 1st. And with that, I'd just like to announce our next meeting of the Board of Supervisors will be a special closed session on Tuesday, June 29th, 2021, and Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. The next regular meeting of the board is scheduled for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. Thank you very much. And again, thank you all for joining us today, and have a safe and happy 4th of July. Thank you all. Thank you, members of the board. Our CEO.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
This meeting is no longer being recorded.